Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the Open Concept Podcast, where we are breaking down those unnecessary walls and barriers that stand in the way of greatness. Our guest today, very excited to have her here, Dr. Maureen Gibbons. Dr. Mo is joining us. Dr. Mo is a dual board certified physician, entrepreneur, and founder of AMS Lifestyle Medicine, modern telehealth practice focused on sustainable health, performance, and lifestyle transformation. She's also the host of the Freedom to Shift podcast and the author of Freedom to Shift, a proven path to stop trading time, start creating freedom, and shape what's next. Dr. Mo, super excited to have you here. What is happening today? How the heck are you?
Thank you so much for having me. Brandon, that was great. Thank you. Yeah, it's so funny. Whenever somebody reads the subtitle of my book, The Shape What's Next, I'm like, yep, that's a midlife crisis book right there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. But it's important, right? We were talking, we pretty well recorded a full podcast before we actually started recording because we were having so much fun talking about it. But there are real shifts that need to happen. And one of the conversations that we were having and that you mentioned as when you were talking to some other people and speaking with them about new barriers that you were maybe coming up against and new challenges in business and growth, and a lot of growth that people go through, is the idea that you cannot expect to get to where it is that you want to go based on the energy that got you to where it is that you are today. And I thought you were really insightful. You had some information that was given to you about your specific energy that you were bringing, and you had called it this Phoenix energy. And I want you to talk more about that and some of the insights that you got, because the information that you were talking to me about offline got me so excited, and our listeners just need to hear more and more about that.
Well, it's funny because I think everyone should hear these things, right? But we're not ready until we're ready, right? So those of you who are listening and are ready and hear this, kudos, because here it goes. So I was told by a mentor that I come at everything with a Phoenix energy. So you know what that looks like. You can immediately picture red, hot, fiery, in your face. Let's go big, burn it bright, burn it down. Sounds like a positive thing, right? Except 3 separate people in this mastermind I was in said to me, you can't reach the next level. You won't reach the next level attacking things the way you do right now. And I think attacking is a really good word to use, because when a lot of us I'll speak for myself, when I have an issue that comes up, I wouldn't even call it a problem. It's just something that bubbles up where, I've got to do this today or that today, or okay, how do we save this amount? How do we prepare for this? It's always all right, let's make a list. Let's make a plan. Even one of my anchors in my coaching is called worst day systems. All right, we got to have a plan. There's my husband jokes, my backup plans have backup plans. And that's the kind of person I am, right? Oh, wait. But I'm not going to get to the level that is the next level. And you never stay stagnant, right? We're always getting better, getting worse. We're never stagnant.
Yeah. So
that next level is going to require my word for 2026, and it's allow. There's no amount of attacking that will achieve this goal.
Allow. I love that. So the word allow, your word for 2026, go a little deeper about what that word means, because you've clearly put a lot of time and attention on this specific word. So what are you going to allow yourself to do in 2026 that you weren't allowing yourself to do last year or in years prior?
One of the biggest weaknesses that my team, I have a very small team now. I fired 90% of my company in August. And we have a very small team now. Got a little smaller this morning. Sorry. little snark in there. It's okay. We're
We feel
actually
that Phoenix energy firing up a little
right.
bit. That's all good. Yeah,
Pull it in, pull it
I
in.
see that coming through. That's a
No, it's
blue
a
flame
so
burning. Yeah.
but one of the things that my team member, who she's been with me for 6 months now, and she's developing a bit stronger personality, which is great. She has a strong personality. It's just, again, the Phoenix energy, it overshadows people. And I've realized a couple things. I've overshadowed people, number one, but the allowing, when I set a plan, if it doesn't work in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 months, I blow it up.
Mm.
Or even because I've created this freedom to shift environment, which it doesn't mean what it sounds like. It's not like you can willy-nilly change your mind. This is not a woman's prerogative. This is, you don't have a fixed identity. We are growth-minded people. Everyone listening to this is a growth-minded person. But sometimes we just need a little nudge.
Mhm.
Well, weirdly, my allowing is the opposite. I can sit in exactly where I am, in my space, just tell my story, and allow people to come to me, not chase them down, whether it's patients, clients, all of it. Here is what I offer. Here is what I am. Here is what I'm about. If I can help you, I would love to. Come into my circle. That's allowing.
I love that. We're talking about energy and this idea of this calm energy, this allowing energy, which sounds really removed from this Phoenix energy. And if somebody in their mind is struggling with that because they're thinking, man, I get my energy, but I don't, for me, it's not calm. For me, it's absolute fire right now. Like that is the energy that I need to bring versus maybe I have been being too calm. Maybe I'm not putting in enough effort. Maybe I'm not bringing enough intention and velocity. And you mentioned the word attack. Like maybe I'm not attacking stuff fast enough, hard enough, with enough intensity. Maybe I'm not bringing that kind of energy. Maybe I have too much of this allow energy. And somebody else might be thinking, maybe I share what Dr. Mo's doing. I've been grinding. I've been fired up. My lists have backup lists. My checklists have more check boxes on them and subcategories, and it's getting done and it's doing the thing, and I'm putting in the systems and it's all working. And maybe they do need to step back and step into that allow energy. But how do you know?
They both, I was going to say, I think everyone hearing this is going to have part of this. It's almost the same problem, because when you say that, what I'm picturing is Phoenix energy, right? We're going to attack that list. We're going to check the things off. We're going to, like you said, we're fired up. That energy though is what? It's chaotic. It's the same problem, so to speak, as the person who's just a bit calmer. Both of them have to take that energy they have and focus. Focus it, bring it in like a laser. Bring it in, calm it down. And again, it's literally, I picture like chopping off parts of that wide energy, right? That flame. No, chop it off, bring it narrower. What needs to happen? So the person who thinks, oh, I need to be all fired up, and they go to Tony Robbins and then they get all fired up and then they don't do anything, right? Shelf help at its finest. Now, a lot of people do go to Tony Robbins and do channel that, but that's the difference. Is they take that and that small, they bring it into that small lens. What matters? And then do that.
Going to these motivational conferences, and I've certainly been to a number of them over my years as growing and developing as a person, but you start to see a lot of the same people at these events, and they, you talk about shelf help, right? It's this idea of constantly reading, constantly learning, constantly going for, going to these motivational talks, going to this course, doing that thing, because you're thinking you're making progress, and you look back and you think, actually, I haven't really done anything, but I feel motivated to do stuff, but I'm not actually doing anything. And that's where that idea of focus comes in that you're talking about, is you have to narrow that down and focus, and also take the real tangible steps. You have to do something with that information. You have to do something with that knowledge. Otherwise, your brain and your mind, it can be a beautiful space to live in, but nobody else can understand what is in your mind, what is in your thoughts. Nobody is going to do anything with that information other than you, that you've been given. I think that's something that a lot of people miss. And the big takeaways from these things is like, yes, you can go to, the Unleash the Power Within or Business Mastery, and you can learn all these things and leave there after 12 hours of getting fired up and watching Tony on stage and Patrick David up there just like doing his thing and launching and like rah, rah, rah. And you leave there and you're like, man, I feel so fucking good. I can do anything. And then Monday comes around and you're like, all right, you're still feeling pretty good. And Tuesday comes along and you're like, I'm kind of back into the swing of things here. And then Friday comes along and you're like, all right, well, that week I didn't do much. So Monday I'm going to start doing the thing that I said I was going to do. And then you kind of get caught back up in the swing of things. And then you need to go to the next one because you've lost that sense of motivation, because you haven't put into place those meaningful small little steps and taken advantage of the 1% energy that you've been developing and compounding more and more and more, and the focus on the key specific things that you actually need to do that are actually going to start to move the needle, which is why you paid all that money to go to that, that talk in the first place. Because it's pretty easy to walk away with a huge amount of motivation, a book full of notes of things that you are going to do, but until you focus down and actually start implementing.
Real quick before we get back to the show, if you have heard anything on this podcast that has resonated with you, or if it's helped you in any way, appreciate more than anything in the world if you could go hit that subscribe button or leave us a review. It helps us tremendously. I want to go back to being able to continue to serve and do more and more and help out and get bigger and bigger guests on, better and better. The only way that I can do that is with your help. I'm so honored to be here. Let's get back to the show. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
None of that means anything.
I love what you said, that your brain is a beautiful place to live, but no one else can see it. Because, we don't create these things. Like when you build homes, we were talking before the podcast, when someone has a home built, it's a home, and it's a space for them to live and develop and grow. And when you talk about, we have all of this, your brain, you got all these visions. How many people out there? It's like Wayne Dyer said, don't die with your music still in you. When no one else can see that, the expression of that, it's what we're here for. It's to share those things. And it makes me a bit sad, because I think everyone listening to your podcast, I'm sure, is not in this category. But so many people, I watch the doctors that I used to work with. Oh, I want to do this. I want to get a job out doing whatever. And that's why I stopped coaching doctors, because they don't want to move, because a $300,000 career is real enticing to sit. And they won't move.
Yeah. Well, they find themselves in the zone of excellence, right? If you've ever read the book, The Big Leap, shout out. I think it's a great book, but
fantastic book.
Talk about the zone of excellence and the zone of genius. And so many people continue to live in their zone of excellence because it's something that they're good at. They're being compensated pretty well. Things are pretty comfortable, and it looks good, feels good. It just doesn't really light up the soul.
Yeah.
So you find other ways, other things to purchase, other places to travel or go or do that are like right at that breach of just almost fulfilling your heart, almost fulfilling your soul. But there's a little creative piece. There's a little something there that's like not quite met. And that's when you're really brushing up against that upper limit challenge or that upper limit problem, when you're balancing right up against that barrier of that zone of excellence versus that zone of genius that you can jump into, where time doesn't exist. heart
Yeah.
is filled. Energy is just all around you. And yeah, I think it's an incredible book. But I mean, yeah, I think doctors, no offense, doctors are kind of the worst
Yeah.
because like they're very well educated and they pride themselves on that. And so they know so much more than so many other people because they have gone to school for so long and they're really smart. I've never met a doctor that isn't smart. The
Yeah.
problem is a lot of them are too smart. And I
Well,
was
yeah, in my book, I call us the dangerously overeducated. It's the lawyers, the doctors, the executives. We're boxed in by that frame around our diploma.
dangerously overeducated is a great way to put it. And I love the um, when you're starting a new business or you're starting a new venture, right? You're overly optimistic. You don't know what you don't know, so you're willing to take risks to challenge stuff. And I call it the white belt mentality, right? I train jujitsu. I have for many years, but I know that when I stepped on that mat for the first time as a white belt, I thought that I kind of owned the mat, and I walked in there and I was immediately humbled. And I fought it for a long time, right? I fought it for
Mhm.
a number of different sessions before something hit me, and I was like, I just need to learn. I cannot be here. I cannot be something that I'm not, but I need to continue to learn, and I need to be open to the idea that these people around me, even though they're much smaller than I am, even though they're not nearly as strong or nearly as fit, they're tearing me apart on the mat. They're choking me out. They're, ripping my arms off. I have no idea what the hell is going on. I need to sit my ego aside and I need to learn. And then at that point, you can approach new tasks as if you really have nothing to lose because you're starting with this wide open bucket and an immense amount of opportunity versus risk. And I gave the example. We were talking offline, and I was telling you I went and I hosted a mastermind group for a local business association here on AI, right? And the reason I did that was because I knew that people locally here, they needed help getting started and understanding the basics of AI. Now, there were two of us. We did sort of the yin and yang. I gave my talk in the beginning, which was about an hour long. The second person that came up, and wonderful person, but he comes from a tech background. He literally solders motherboards and does this, and his presentation was wildly overcomplicated with a huge amount of diagrams that got into some really technical stuff that nobody understood, including myself. But he very much understood it because he's very much technically understands that side, and I didn't know really enough about what it was that he was talking about to give that kind of presentation. But I knew where those people were because I've been there too and needed to meet them where they were. I'm not a self-proclaimed AI guy, but I feel like if I knew too much about it, I probably wouldn't have put myself in that circumstance because I would have overthought the presentation. And the way that I delivered it meant that information was really well absorbed. But it was uncomfortable, for sure.
It's so uncomfortable. I mean, we met in a mentorship group, and I've been in that group coming on 2 years. In watching myself, there's a saying, model then modify. But oh no, my situation's different. No, it's not. And it took me over a year and a half to finally become, about a year and a half to really, truly become coachable.
Why is that?
I always thought I was a special snowflake. Oh no, it doesn't apply here. That part doesn't really apply here. No, I can do this. Everything from, the way that the trip has gone. What a long, strange trip it's been. And, I started my business by accident. And I know. Who starts a multi-million-dollar telehealth business by accident? Me. And I completely started by accident. I was just helping people. And it's funny, when I say this out loud, I hear it differently today than even 3 weeks ago, because I was helping people online navigate their healthcare. And because I literally tried to get my own metabolism under control for over 40 years, 45 years. And I finally was like, oh, holy cow, this is how this works. Okay, great. And I mean, like, I know how it works. I'm a doctor. I'm a certified sports nutritionist. I've done 7 Ironmans. I have a master's degree in athletic training. The knowledge is not my issue. And knowledge is no one's issue. Everyone knows that broccoli is healthier than brownies. Okay. Like that, but why couldn't I do it? Right. I have a lot of willpower. I get a lot of stuff done, but I just help people navigate. Cause I was like, okay, well that's not how this works. Like, this is how this works. Like when you talk to telehealth people, this is how it works. Or, I would just sort of do this. And I had a woman say to me, wait, you're a doctor? And I said, yeah. She goes, can you be my doctor? And I said, I don't know, maybe. And July 15th, 2022, she became my first patient. And there it went.
I love that. The Accidental Doctor. That's going to be the title of your next book.
Right.
You're right. There's not a lot of people that accidentally fall into that type of position. I think a lot of people, like I accidentally fell into construction in a very different way, and because of the initial interaction that I had, I didn't seek out this career. I didn't seek out what it was that I was doing. I fell into this position by a series of wildly weird events that led me down this path. But I do believe that there is a reason for that, and I do believe that it was designed by somebody else. Call it the universe, call it a creator, call it God, call it whatever you need to. But I don't know that it was an accident for me as who I am today, but it was not an accident for who I know I was meant to be in this moment. And that was designed, I feel, by something greater than myself. I want to talk about biology and like energy and biology. Is there something that goes on, right? And different times of the day. And for me, I know that in the morning I have, I don't know if it's just because that's when I drink coffee in the morning. Maybe it's just after I've had a good night's rest. Like, there are different times during the day where energy is very different. I know that there's times during the day where energy, I can really use that to hammer out, administrative tasks if I need to, or get very detailed and focused. There's times during the day where I need to use a different energy to get creative, to talk to people, and I can find myself in a different position. But is there a real science behind that, or am I overcomplicating things?
Yes, the answer is yes. No, because everyone does have peak periods, like peak, just innate chronotypes, innate energy fluctuations. Some of it, though, it's all hormonal. Okay. And I know hormones sound like a buzzword these days. It's not. It's just how your body runs, right? When you look at, I'll switch from biology to chemistry a little bit without getting too much in the weeds, but your body runs on chemicals. It runs on energy. It runs on the basics. When you look at the machine itself. And it could be even so much that as we get older, I know I hate to say that because you're younger than I am, so I'll say that as I get older,
probably not by too much, but
not too much. We'll just call that. I'm 52, so
my metabolic age. I had a DEXA scan. My metabolic age says I'm 30, so that's what I've been telling people. That's what
I like that one. Yeah, perpetually 29. That's where I sit.
I love that.
Yes. Actually, I metabolically, I'm better off than I ever was, minus the heart disease I got diagnosed with in 2024.
Oh.
That was a doozy. Good news is it wasn't critical. It's a 20% lesion, so there's nothing to do for it except for change your lifestyle, reduce your stress. Oh, funny that. You think I'm getting it from all the angles? Yes. Working nights in a trauma center for 15 years. Yeah, that'll do it to you. But again, I had a therapist once who said, we seek the teeth that fit the wound. And, my stress isn't from emergency medicine, but almost like you're asking me about innate energy patterns, right? No, this is just who I am. That Phoenix energy, not new. Not new. So, when you have the burst of energy in the morning, or it could be absolutely due to your food intake the night before. Could be when when you ate, how well you hydrated the day before, what kind of REM sleep did you get? Did you get deep sleep that night? all of the things. And if you're like, yeah, but it happens every day. Could be your regular type, or it could be that you have chronically crappy sleep habits. It's really, and you have young ones at home too. So it's
I do, yeah.
disruptive.
I do have a couple of young kids, and yeah, sleeping is certainly a challenge at times. My oldest is getting much better, but yeah, having young kids in the house, they require a lot of energy. And
Yeah.
so when you talk about that Phoenix energy or that calm energy, they really start to pick up a lot of that, right? They pick up on your energy huge. So you have to be very, very careful with the energy that you bring home with you
Mm.
versus the energy that maybe you bring into the office, but you still want to bring a level of that mixture of calmness but intensity, right? So, and when I say intensity, bringing that home, it's a different kind of intensity, right? It's an intense amount of joy and excitement and wanting to step in there and really play and intensely be present with those kids. But sometimes it does take more effort and it doesn't come naturally. And you really need to continue to check in with yourself and see what that energy is doing for you right now.
Well, it's funny. So when it doesn't come naturally, right? And I'm 52 years old, as my dad says, it's not a midlife crisis. It's a call to action. Okay. I hear you. I'm listening. And because this whole thing started when I was about 48, I knew, well, I looked down the barrel of my life and I said, I can't do this for 20 more years. I don't want to. I loved what I did. I still love emergency medicine. However, you can't grind forever. So when you want to show up with your family with a certain energy and it's not reflex, that's a new skill you've got to develop. Like there's no other way around it. Whether it's meditation, visualization, yes, all the above, improved sleep habits, improved food intake, decreased alcohol intake, whatever the vices are, we know they got to go. That's for me, sugar's the last one to go. Well, actually, fear's the real last one to go. Sugar just helps that out,
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
I had a friend tell me that he was kicking sugar and had a long time sugar addiction. He said sugar is more difficult to kick than heroin.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's no joke. I mean, it really is. And people in the medical community, there have been many, many studies. Yes, sugar is not, food is not addictive. Well, I'll tell you from my 45 years of experience, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I got put on my first diet at age 1. I'm going to go with there's not a whole lot of coping skills at that point. When your doctor tells your mom that you don't have an off switch, that's not willpower at 1. I hate to tell you.
This is
Like,
the metabolism that you were talking about earlier.
no, this is different. This is my brain.
Your brain.
And it's the whole picture, right? Because I never had an off switch. Funny that I say it out loud. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. Sorry. Feel free to cut that out.
Yeah, it'll stay in there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
well, we'll go back. Maybe we'll edit it out. Up to you.
Depends what you. No, I don't want anything edited out. It's just if you swear in your podcast or not.
No, it's all good. They get it from me all the time.
Good. So yeah, no, I mean it's like you don't have an off switch. Oh, really? I never noticed. And but with food, I actually when I talk to my patients now, it's I no longer live a life run by food because that off switch is my brain. Like I just don't people are like, well, it's so funny because people who don't have this issue, they're like, well, why don't you just stop when you're full? I'm like, I'm not sure what this word full means. Because I mean, there would be, you could be, it's like Thanksgiving, people are like, oh, you overeat. Yeah. Just keep, because it's there and you keep eating.
Mhm.
That's 45 years of that. I mean, I'm lucky I wasn't 350 pounds.
Yeah, you're not going to run 7 Ironmans if you're 350 pounds, or most people aren't, anyways.
Yeah, but I've done them between 160 and 120, and I'll tell you which one's more comfortable.
Yeah.
So, it's just, and it was after the last attempt that I went to my doctor and I said, I need help. I can't stop eating. I mean, this was 4 years ago. So, and he said, eat less, move more, and do you belong to a church?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I just finished 2/3 of an Ironman. How much more would you like me to move? Like, I know the answer, but speaking to the biology piece, and it took me a year and a half. I told you I'm a slow learner. I'm dangerously overeducated here.
I
It
get
took
it.
me a year and a half into this journey, and I said to myself, because of course I beat myself up, right? Why couldn't you do this? Why couldn't you just stop eating? And I said, wait a second. And I started on here. Oh, it's Manjaro there as well. We also we have the FDA does funky things in America, so we it's just Manjaro. It's what it should be. It should be nothing else. Anyway, but I started on Manjaro, and it wasn't about the weight loss because within 6 hours of taking it, my brain was quiet. And that term that you hear called food noise, I realized in writing my book, it's not just food noise. It's a hypercritical voice
Mm-hmm.
that says you're not doing enough. And I realized a year and a half into this journey, wait a second. If I have an issue that could be 90% taken care of by a chemical, maybe it's a chemical issue.
Mm.
Oh, so it's not morality. It's not willpower. Just screwed up chemistry. Who knew?
I think there's a lot of people that need to hear that because there's, there's going to be that mix of people for sure. If you're anything like me, you walk in at home and I bring my lunch to work with me every single day, right? I do now. And for the last year or so, I've brought it to work with me every day. And that I know it helps because I know what I'm going to be eating. There's going to be portion control. It's basically the same thing every day. I can measure my macros. I'm not at home eating, but as soon as I get home from work, if my wife has baked cookies or there's, I've a couple of young kids, so there's usually some treats in the cupboard. And I open that cupboard and I stare at this, box of cookies or box of granola bars or marshmallows or whatever. And there's a constant battle in your head. Like I will stare at this box of cookies for a good, what seems like an eternity. It's probably 15 seconds, but there is a battle going on. There is like sword fights and cannons and
Dragons.
like just like flags that are torn and just somebody on the front lines that's out there just screaming at me and like we're doing this, and like that is the kind of battle that goes on in your mind but all anybody sees from the exterior, the outside, is me walking up to the cupboard, opening it for a second, closing it, and walking away. But there is this massive mental battle that happens. And that is, maybe it's a lack of boredom, maybe it's chemistry, maybe it's that battle for willpower. I don't know, but it's a struggle certainly that I go through, and I think a lot of people do.
I do. And I think, people will say, well, we have to change the food supply. Well, we do, but I don't have time. I don't have time for that to happen. And I need to get healthier in the meantime. And so you look in that pantry and all those hyper palatable foods have created the Audubon in your brain. Like our brains are and we know our brains are neuroplastic, right? We talk about the growth mindset. Well, they have hijacked your brain. I heard once a lecture many years ago about addiction, that addiction is the normal reward system gone awry. So, and once it's tipped over that scale, you don't bring it back. You manage it, but you can't bring it back. So when you think of it that way, you're like, oh, hold on, it's broken. Okay, then what? You can never have cookies in the house with a 4-year-old? Like, really? I mean, I don't mean to, I get it. Does she need cookies? No. Do I need cookies? Yes, some days. Let's be real. But we don't, food is enjoyable. Food is family. Food is a lot of things. Food is everything in our society. Should it be? Shouldn't it be? I get it, but we're not going to change society. We've got to learn to live within it. And your brain gets hardwired every time it has salt, fat, and sugar together. That literally paves that road smoother and smoother every time. In a perfect world, we would all eat 100% clean food. We would, like this is what we would do. But I don't live in a perfect world.
So how do you stop? You decide you have this battle in your mind, right? The sword fights, the dragons, the cannonballs, like all of this is going off, and then at some point you think, "Fuck, I'm just gonna lay down on this spear. Give me these cookies. That's it for me."
Where are the Cadbury mini eggs?
You go, you eat them. Yeah, Easter's right around the corner, right? We need some of that. You sit down, you eat it, and then you start getting really upset with yourself because you know that you know that it was the wrong decision.
So here's
Where
the
does that
thing.
come into play?
I'm gonna challenge your language right here.
Please.
Because it was the wrong decision. Food is not moral. It's not a moral argument. People who have excess body fat, excess adipose tissue, they ate more than their body burned. That's it. All the drama we attach to it is constructed. So we talked about drama earlier, bringing drama to situations. This is 100% constructed by our society. That, I shouldn't have eaten the cookies. I shouldn't have done this. You're shoulding all over yourself, first of all. And food is not morality. It's just not. And there's so many schools of thought. People say, everyone should intuitively eat. I will intuitively eat 1.5 pounds of Cadbury mini eggs. And I am not exaggerating. Like, I can do that on Mounjaro, okay? Just for everyone out there who's like, you can't take Mounjaro because it stops you from being able to eat. No, if you're managed by an actual healthcare professional and not some rando on the internet, yes, it works well. It works well. It's a mental health drug for me, right? You know why? I had granola today. I'm going to tell you a granola story. It's cookies.
Granola story. Yeah,
let's be real. I mean, granola's cookies, right? I had it for dessert for lunch because it's my excuse. It's protein granola. Okay, whatever. It's cookies. But I sat down with the whole bag of granola, and I ate about half of it. It's 4 servings per bag. I had 2, logged them, did my thing. And then I was done. Not on the medication. I don't have that. I eat half the bag of granola, and then I eat the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, because it's truly trying to satisfy something food won't satisfy. So it's an interesting dichotomy we're in right now, because we're still in that, we call it diet culture. Oh, I hate that. Woe is me. It's diet culture. Well, yeah, it's diet culture because we don't want it to be Wall-E. I mean, let's be real. We want to be better every day. And that does mean healthier. So when you're slaying the dragons, well, number one, you might just want to hang out with the dragon. Let's just start there. All right. Am I going to have cookies? I don't know. If you want to, take 10 seconds and say, why am I eating this cookie? Am I hungry? No. Do I still want the cookie? Yes. Okay. It's an algorithm, right? Do I want the cookie? Yep. Still want the cookie. Why? Are you upset? Yep. Is the cookie going to make me feel better for a minute? Yep. I mean, let's be real. Let's not kid ourselves here. It makes us feel better. Or I'm bored. I'm overwhelmed. I need to disengage. Now, there are bigger issues there. Are you working too hard? Did you have that 14-hour day yesterday? There is truly willpower fatigue. Bottom line is, if you have to rely on willpower, you will always fail.
Yeah.
So it is multifactorial. People, I can talk about obesity as a chronic disease till I'm blue in the face. I get it. It's a metabolic spectrum. I feel like that's the boring part. That's the boring part I don't like talking about. What I do like talking about is, what do you do when you're standing at the pantry? Well, you have 2 choices. Either eat the cookies or not.
I go through a series of understanding and knowing, right? If I eat a couple of Oreo cookies, and I don't know where we're getting a little deep on the cookies here, but I do want to bring this point home and make it, certainly let people understand where we're going here. When I eat these cookies, I know, and like, it'll mess maybe with my sleep if I eat them before bed, because I don't eat a lot of sugar, so I get this immediate sugar spike. And I know after I've eaten that, I feel kind of weird. I don't like it. Next night, I go to that cupboard again, and I know in my heart, in my brain, that if I eat these cookies, I'm going to feel that same way that I felt last night. And I'm still questioning whether or not I want to do that. because it does feel good in that short term. You're like, I just feel like I need something sweet, but it's that understanding that I understand the consequences of how I'm going to feel, and I'm making that decision anyways to feel that way, to eat these cookies, to know that I'm going to have a bit of a sugar high, to know that I'm probably going to be frustrated, to know that I'm probably going to get down on myself, to know that I'm probably going to be, agitated and irritated. And I make that negotiation with myself.
It's a risk benefit. You're willing to accept the consequences.
Risk benefit. There
we
go. Yeah.
And in all reality, it is absolutely, you're willing to accept. I mean, let's go on the other side of addiction, right? I spent 15 years in the ER, right? We revived a lot of people with Narcan. Let's just throw that out there. We won't say the words that'll get us in trouble. And I brought blue people back to pink. And sorry.
Well done. You are a superhero.
And except they always came back swinging. That was the sucky part. But whatever. There's that. Duck. But think about that side of addiction, right? The dark side of addiction, right? Their dragons are bigger. Their swords are smaller. And but when you think about the same negotiation, here's the difference. Addiction is a spectrum. And this is 100% opinion. This is not medical advice. I always tell people on when I used to do my lives, this is not medical, financial, legal, or definitely relationship advice. Go to somebody else for those. Certainly not medical advice here, but addiction is a spectrum, because when it is true addiction, your frontal lobe, like you said, all those discussions you have, those are all frontal lobe. Who's asking for it is your brainstem. If my frontal lobe was driving the bus, we wouldn't be in this predicament. So when you have true addiction, I mean, it grabs people by the throat. They would rather get that substance than take their next breath. They would sacrifice their children. Are you going to sacrifice your kid for an Oreo? Not happening, right? No. Risk benefits not there. You would, if you had the choice, can you never have an Oreo again or have your kid get sick? Like, there's no, you're like, okay, see you later, Oreos, I'm out.
How long are we getting sick for?
Do they have a cold? Or are we talking
flu and a runny nose, or are we talking something a little more dire here? No, I get your point. No, you're absolutely right.
So it's truly just a risk benefit. The problem is when you get into the depths of addiction and true, like when I talk about neuroplasticity, some people's pain in life is so dire that they either, and I've hold on, let me move over. This book, my first book, that's my journey out of the pit. And when I say the pit, it's not the show on TV. It was the lowest of the low. And I had to make a choice. I could I could not live with the way my brain worked. I was about 38 at the time. I could not live with the way my brain was working. It was too hypercritical. I didn't know, looking back, I had no idea that was just the way my brain worked. So imagine that. If I had had a chemical then, it could have helped out. Anyway, I digress. But I told myself, like one of two things was going to happen. Either I changed the way my brain worked or my brain no longer functioned. Now, some people choose to do that through addiction. Choose is a relative term. I get it. You try something and, oh, wow, there you go. And away it goes. But from the Oreo standpoint, say whatever pain that is in the moment, that food makes it feel better. You're like, I'm going to lose a night of sleep. I don't care. Because in the moment, the frontal lobe isn't driving the bus. It's just not. It's just not how it works. If you've ever looked at or read any parts of, I have not done the whole thing, of A Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
That fear and love cannot live in the same place. It's only one or the other. And that's, and it's funny because he asked, like I say that out loud. I'm like, but I'm afraid to not live in a world without fear, because what if I'm not prepared?
Mm-hmm.
My backup plans having backup plans, that's who I am. And that's the next evolution. The next evolution in this Oreo, because of course it's not about the Oreos. None of this conversation's about the Oreos. It's about when you're faced with the next uncomfortable decision, how do you handle it?
Is rumination and worry a form of addiction?
This is not a scientific opinion. This is a human opinion. The answer is 100% yes.
Right.
Because worry feels like action.
And worry, I think, stops you from doing the thing that you know that you need to do.
Mm-hmm. It
Right?
feels productive.
It feels productive, and it also feels like you're getting close to doing something that maybe that you know that you should do, or having a conversation that you know that you should have, but worry stops that, right? Worry helps you justify, right? Worry comes up with all of these reasons as to why this isn't a good idea, or why it should be delayed, or why you shouldn't do the thing. And that justification, you can sell that to yourself pretty easily, time and time again, just the same way that you can sell yourself the idea of going and getting a cookie out of the cupboard is the right choice.
Right.
Going and having, another beer is a good choice.
Yes.
And I wondered, is there like the same kind of chemistry that's going on in your mind when you start ruminating about certain things, worrying about certain things, and if you're in that constant cycle, is that similar to addiction?
It is, because it's that decompression. Like it's the, that's not the right word. What is the right word? It's that, because things get uncomfortable and you want relief. It's a relief valve, right? And we're used to worrying about things. I've actually realized, from a business perspective, I will create people problems instead of doing what I know needs to be done. I will find something wrong with an employee. No, that's not this morning's issue. But because it came to light with an employee who did have the guts. She was the one who actually had the guts to tell me, no, you switched directions too quickly. I will create situations, again, like we said earlier, we'll create the drama. We'll too much peace is uncomfortable. So we'll create something we know. And that's what we know. That's that worry. That's that, Hurricane Harvey came through here whenever it did, whatever year that was. My son was little. He was taking a nap. My husband was home, and it's pouring, and I have a shift the next day. And so we were offered the opportunity to stay in the hotel next to the hospital. Well, I didn't want to do that. My son was here. He was at 2 or 3 or something. And it was that long ago. Anyhow, and I didn't want to stay in the hospital, but I sit there and I ruminated, worried, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get? My husband's like, I will get in the car and I'll drive you. I'm like, you're not driving me during a hurricane to the hospital. What do I do? Well, you know what I did? I got a dry bag. I got my headphones. I listened to a podcast and I walked to the hospital. The road, because I know the roads don't flood where I am. In a hurricane. In a hurrane. Because up where we were, it wasn't truly a hurricane. It was really just rain bands. So, and it doesn't flood here. So you'd think I would have taken the car. Nope. I'm like, what if I can't get in the car? What if I'm afraid of ruining my car? Right? Again, my backup plans have backup plans. I said, all right, if I'm walking in a rainstorm, how long is it going to take me to walk to the hospital? I'm 2.75 miles away. And it took me 55 minutes. Listen to a podcast. I get there, I'm drenched. I grab a towel out of my dry bag, dry off, go in, grab a protein shake from the doctor's lounge. And people are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just needed to make sure I could get here tomorrow. Because in the entire way here, my husband thought I was crazy. Imagine. So do your listeners. I hear you. But worry is not an action. I needed to take action in service of my peace. And that's what I did.
Take action in service of your peace.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
I hadn't ever said it before.
How does this start to affect your bandwidth to go about your day? Right? When you have this overarching sense of maybe it's food, or you're constantly thinking about, I should have done this, I should have done that. You're worrying about things, and you spend that time worrying when it could be productive. But how does that start to mentally affect your bandwidth to get through your day, to focus on the things that you know that you need to be focusing on, when you have this other thing in the back of your mind that is holding you up, that all you can do is think about it, right? You can think about whether it's going to be food or whether it's going to be this conversation that you need to have. It can be over encompassing, all encompassing,
Mhm.
and start to distract you from the things that you need to really do. But how does that really start to affect your bandwidth if you don't have that relief valve that's going to move things forward in a positive direction? What are
It's funny.
and let me ask you another
Yeah.
question, like physically, right? This is all a mental game that we're talking about, but physically,
Mhm.
how can this show up? If we're talking about worry, if we're talking about rumination, if we're talking
Mhm.
about delaying conversations that need to happen, and it starts growing inside, and you need to get it out. You know that, but you stop it because everything else you're negotiating with yourself, not doing the thing or doing the wrong thing, and you're substituting that for everything else that you're talking about right now. How can that start to show up in you physically?
Well, and I know there are differing theories on this, so I'll speak from personal experience.
This episode is sponsored by New Vision Projects, and everybody has heard the horror stories that happen. They have a friend of a friend or a neighbor that's been renovating for years on end, or they've been building a home and it just hasn't gone the way that it needed to go. Budgets are blown through the roof, timelines, forget about them. New Vision Projects has an incredibly strong track record for over 15 years of working with customers, serving them at the highest level. If you are considering building or renovating, check them out on Instagram at New Vision Projects or at newvisionprojects.com. Building the homes you want with the confidence you need. New Vision has you covered. Let them show you why they're different. Back to the show.
That when you talked about earlier, entrepreneurs hitting that point where you feel like you need a creative outlet, where you're just there's that zone of genius. It's funny, this is the second time I've talked about this book today.
No,
And that zone of genius and pushing into that it's an uncomfortable pressure. It is very uncomfortable pressure. And it is that creative aspect. And I didn't know when when I think creative, I mean, granted, yes, I wrote a couple books. I get that. To me, that's not creative. I'm like, the words are just there. Well, that's the point. That's the point, is once they're out there, it's what you created. And I didn't realize until weirdly this week, I was talking to my husband about compassion fatigue as a physician. I joke about the patients that I've treated, but I never got compassion fatigue. I care about all of them. I cared about my staff. I cared about my patients, the ones that other people didn't care about. I cared about them. And I looked at my husband and I said, it is no wonder I have heart disease. And it dawned on me. I get it. It's stress. It's overeating. It's a lot of years of processed food. It's college. I don't, period. Let's just stop there. I grew up in Buffalo, right? Like, come on.
Yeah, I
Like,
get it. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
100%. There's
Wings,
plenty of
beer, and hockey.
tailgating if you're a football fan, if you're a Bills fan, like, yeah, you got
Lots of misery there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, lots of misery, lots of cold winters in Buffalo. There's not a whole hell of a lot else better to do. Like,
No,
let's go.
most
All
fun
right.
thing to do in cold weather,
Yeah.
And so, but it is. I truly believe in the mental, emotional, physical connection. And I always have. I mean, I was attuned in Reiki when I was in my early 20s an MD. That's people are like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, just because I have a degree doesn't mean I don't actually understand how the universe works." So, and of course I don't practice it. I don't put myself out there as a Reiki practitioner, but the flow of energy is real. Like, we know this. This is it. And so when you're asking, when we have these uncomfortable situations, like you said, it's getting curious. It's just, I call it the Viktor Frankl space, right? It's that pause. It's that pause between stimulus and response. Like, all day today, I have felt so anxious that, for what? Like, really, for what? Now, we launched a new program in my company today. Okay, great. And, like, again, worry is not an action. What is the next step? It's a balance between that phoenix energy and, okay, in order to get rid of the anxiety, I do an action. Well, look at that. You're in the same loop as before, where you're still trying to relieve the pressure valve. by doing action? What if you just sat and said, okay, what's today look like? And allowed the answer.
You mentioned writing the book, and one thing that I picked up on is you talked about this creative outlet, and you had said, "You know what? I wrote this book. It's out there. It's not creative for me. It's like they're just words." And so often I look at business owners that are in the process of doing something, and they think that they get caught up in the idea that having this thing finished, in your case, maybe it's a book written, maybe it's a new product launch. It's doing the thing is the thing. But once that book is written, once the product is launched, there's still more stuff to be done.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no joy in understanding I wrote a page today, I wrote 2 pages today. That joy gets robbed out of understanding that you've moved the needle by 1%, by 2%.
Yes.
But us as human beings, we can step back if we want to and really appreciate the fact that we move the needle just that little bit and be happy with that and take that for what that is, because we're really focused on this end target, this final product. You run Ironmans, like obviously you want to finish, right? That's why you start it in the first place. You sign up for the race, you train for the race, you want to win the race, or maybe you don't want to win the race, you just want to finish the race. That might be winning in your mind, is going and getting this done. But that finish line, if it doesn't happen, then all of that joy for a lot of people is stripped away because you didn't fucking finish.
Yep.
We get caught up in that. And what I really want to encourage people to do is understand that it's on a journey, and you can take joy in each step. You can take joy in the training, the process behind that. You can take joy in writing a chapter and knowing that it's not the finished product. But so much of that ends up getting lost because we have our eye on what we think completed is done.
Yeah. Like what success means, right? And I teach in my coaching, you've got to define success. You've got to have a goalpost. Imagine if, speaking of the Bills, the goal, no, let's not talk about the goalpost, but damn it. But what if the goalpost moved in the middle of the play, right? Because that's what happens. That's what we do to ourselves. We don't, you have to define success. I coached triathlon for a bunch of years, and my zone of genius, I thought was coaching. Claude told me something different today. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Thanks. It was a very specific aspect of what I do. It's essentially showing people what's possible. And I'm like, okay, that sounds fun.
Let's go. Good for Claude.
Like, that sounds amazing. And which is really what I do. I joke I could inspire a rock. So, but you look at this, and if you don't set the goalpost, you're playing a game you can't win. And we set ourselves up for that because why? We're afraid that if we win, now this leads into a mentorship, part of that mentorship conversation that I'm probably going to have to write this down right in front of me because I do have it on a note on my phone. But if we're playing this game, we can't win because we're used to striving. So if we reach the goal, we're just going to sit and Wally, here we come. So think about this. It was told to me, you could do nothing and still be a winner. So we talk a lot about moving the needle. But what if it's not that? For example, my social media is we're not pivoting. Sometimes I talk about my story. Most of the time I teach people. The teaching people, nobody wants to be taught. So I'm literally moving into 99% of what I do is I'm just going to tell my story over and over again because it's my story. And I know somebody out there will hear what they need and resonate with it and get some comfort in it. That's all I want. My mission in life is to create safe spaces for people to be and grow. So I'm just going to grow that one blade of grass at a time. And by doing that, I'm not doing anything. It's just me.
Dr. Mo, thank you so much for sharing all of your insight, all of your wisdom today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Feel honored to sit here with you, go deep on some of these topics. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate it.
People want to connect with you. Where can they find you?
The fastest place is to go to Instagram at DRMOE Gibbons, Gibbons, like the monkey, Dr. Mo Gibbons, and send me a DM.
You heard her here. Go check her out. Go meet her. Go listen to her story. If you are feeling like a rock, you know you're going to go there, get some inspiration. Check out her latest book. Listen to her podcast. Follow her on social media. Dr. Mo, I feel blessed to have you in my life. Thanks again for being here. And to all of our listeners that are out there and still with us, as always, here rooting for you to win. Until next time, stay blessed. Rock and roll. Peace. See ya.